I'm Davida Perry, D-A-V-I-D-A-P-E-R-R-Y, the co-founding and managing partner of Schwartz, Perry & Heller. Our offices represent Lois Herrera, Jay Murray, and Laura Feju in a lawsuit that they brought against the New York City Department of Education and Schools Chancellor Richard Carranza. On Tuesday, May 28th, our office filed a gender and race discrimination case in Manhattan Supreme Court against the New York City Department of Education and Schools Chancellor Richard Carranza. Our clients are three courageous senior administrators who brought this lawsuit because of the unlawful and discriminatory perception since Chancellor Carranza took office that as Caucasian females, they are unfit or unable to perform their work at the DOE. Chancellor Carranza says very publicly that he selects the most qualified individual to fulfill his progressive agenda, but it's become quite clear that in his view, qualification is rooted in race, and our clients simply are not the correct race or gender to fulfill his agenda. Confirmation of this fact came as recently as yesterday when Chancellor Carranza spoke to the media. He talked about the fact that he proudly described his diverse cabinet, and he was particularly pleased at the fact that 70 to 80% of the New York City school population would see someone that resembled them. And he exclaimed quite enthusiastically, "What's wrong with that?" Well, there's a lot wrong with that. It's spelled out in our lawsuit, but the bottom line is that he's making hiring and employment decisions based on race and gender, and that's unlawful. It's a distortion of the New York City human rights law, which our wonderful city council enacted decades ago as one of the most progressive and broadest human rights law in the country. You can't correct discrimination with adding more discrimination, and that's what's going on here. He's using terms like equity, equity for all, but really it's sort of a cover-up for distorting the human rights law. Our clients have been nothing but champions for New York City public school students. He talked yesterday about his mission, which is to serve public school students, and that's what our clients have done for decades. They've developed policies, they've implemented policies, they've maintained policies, and now they've been demoted, they've been sidelined, and their work is being claimed by others. And we are proud to stand behind these three brave Caucasian women in embarking upon this fight, which I think is very important at this time in our country.
They were demoted. What was the rationale? Usually when you're demoted, it's because there's an issue, a work-related
Right.
issue.
And what were their roles and what were they demoted to?
So our client, Lois Herrera, was the CEO of a particular office. She is no longer the CEO. She's been replaced by an African-American individual, and she is now a consultant for, that's the term that she's being used. She's basically consulting on the policies that she developed, the policies that she implemented. Jay Murray, also very senior, has been sidelined. She might as well be off in Siberia, and others are taking credit for her work. People that reported to her are now above her. They've been demoted 3 administrative levels down. And Laura Feju, who was as close to the chancellor as you can get without having the word chancellor in her title, is begged to keep the word superintendent in her title, but is also doing consulting work for labor and policy. So no reasons were given. No, this
They
wasn't.
were just moved to
They
those
were moved.
positions?
They were told. They were told that if you've been here for 20 years or more, you're the problem. And the problem, that Chancellor Carranza is trying to correct is diversity in the school system, which is quite noble. We all want that. But their race and their gender is a barrier, in his view, toward achieving that goal.
But because why? Are they inept in some way because of their, like you say, their race and their
Well,
gender?
they're not inept. They've been quite successful, but he
But-
views their skin color and their gender as a barrier
But
toward
when they
achieving his
asked
goal.
why they were being changed, what was the
They're,
answer?
n- they're, it's, They were told that there's a white supremacist culture here, that whiteness is toxic.
That's what their superiors
I mean,
told them.
that's the message that's being conveyed at meetings that they've
Right, but
attended.
like when they sat down and they were told.
There's going to be a change. They weren't given a reason. There's going to be a change.
Okay. So when, apparently he told a large group, get on board with my equity plan or leave.
Right.
And then he denied saying that. What's your response to his denial?
He said it. I'm not surprised that he's denied it. He said it. There are witnesses to it, and I am confident that as this case moves forward, those people will come forward and they will reveal what actually happened.
Were your clients part of this training?
My clients have been part of many meetings where toxic white culture is being discussed, white supremacy is being discussed. There's some quotes in the complaint that are attributed to some of these individuals that Chancellor Carranza has put in place now that are sort of leading his agenda that are quite disparaging toward Caucasians.
And because the students cannot identify, or they cannot identify with the students?
He said yesterday, he expressed pride in his diverse cabinet, and it is a diverse cabinet, that 70 to 80% of the black and brown New York City school students will see somebody that resembles them. He said it quite blatantly yesterday.
When you get a new chancellor, don't they come in and they shift people around for whatever reason?
Absolutely, that happens all the time. We work in all industries, private industry, city agencies. Of course, new leadership comes in. Sometimes they bring their own people, they make changes, but these changes, quite clearly, with the message that's being sent along with the changes, is that it's about race and gender. It's not about who's the best fit for the job. Because our clients have proven themselves over decades that they are champions for New York City public school students. That is the life that they've dedicated their entire careers to this. And they have not ever been called out as being incompetent or having performance problems or not being able to do the job.
So what do you cite in the lawsuit as grounds for the lawsuit?
The message that's being sent by these senior individuals, I mean, I can quote some of them for you. I don't want to get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So on May 4th, 2018, at a Borders Cross training, one of our clients was there, LaShawn Robinson, who's the Deputy Chancellor, said that Caucasian colleagues, quote, had to take a step back and yield to colleagues of color and recognize that values of white culture are supremacist. We have all taken on whiteness. This is what's being talked about at meetings with senior level individuals. They're talking about disrupting and dismantling. That's the rhetoric that's being used. What disrupting and dismantling is removing and discarding Caucasian females and replacing them with persons of color. That's what discarding and dismantling has become at the DOE.
Now, has he personally met the 3 women?
Yeah.
He has. Right. It was just my curiosity before this. But the name Herrera is Latino.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting that it is a Latino. I mean, I guess maybe she married in. I don't know
Yeah.
the details.
I'm not going to get into that
Okay.
right now.
So what were your clients' reactions when they're hearing this kind of conversation or this kind of statements?
They were mortified. They were terrified for their future. They wanted to continue serving in the roles that they had worked very hard to achieve. Ms. Herrera started in 1986. Ms. Feju started in 1989. They worked their way up to very, very senior positions. They didn't start in at the top. They dedicated their careers to this. They were mortified. They were devastated. They were humiliated. They were deeply distressed. They've complained to the OEO office at the DOE. Nothing has come of that.
How about the Human Rights Commission? Anything, did they pursue anything?
Well,
like that?
they're going to pursue their judicial remedies. There's some differences between going administratively and going to court. So they're looking to fight for their human rights in court, And they're looking to take advantage of the New York City Human Rights Law, which is there to protect them and any employee in New York that's being discriminated
Are
against.
they losing pay in any way, or
Their
is it-
pay has not been cut. The demotions are in title and in job responsibilities, but their pay has remained intact.
What are they looking as a remedy to,
So the remedies are monetary remedies under the New York City Human Rights Law.
so what is that?
So they don't want their jobs back necessarily.
Well, I mean, I think that it's a little too late for that. I don't think Chancellor Carranza is willing to turn back the hands of time and restore them to the positions that he's had, because that's not what he believes is going to work for him.
Is there a specific amount that they're requesting?
There's an amount that's listed in the complaint. I know that it was mentioned yesterday when he was being spoken to, in the millions of dollars. But the case will go to trial and a jury will determine what they'll recover.
So what's the next step? Walk us through it. So lawsuit's been
The
filed.
lawsuit's been filed. It was served yesterday. The DOE and Chancellor Carranza will have a certain amount of time to respond to the complaint. Then we'll start doing discovery, exchanging documents, conducting depositions. That will take some period of time. We will then let the court know that the discovery has been completed, and we'll get a trial date.
So are these jobs discretionary jobs, or are they civil service, or are they, does he have the right to move people around, or does he have to remove them for cause?
Well, they're at-will employees, which means that just like any employee, they can be fired, they can be transferred for any reason. That's what at-will employment is. That's sort of the basis of any employment relationship here in New York. But those things can happen if there's discrimination at the root of it. And so transfers, demotions, changes are illegal when one of these discriminatory reasons plays a role. And here, it's race, and quite clearly race and gender. That's what's at issue here.
Now,
Those are the
these-
reasons.
Is this other training, is this all sort of similar language, that white supremacy and whiteness and?
It comes up at all of these trainings. And let me just say, our clients have been conducting trainings. They've implemented trainings throughout their entire career. Nobody could be more in favor of anti-bias training than my clients are. It's a wonderful thing for people to know what the problems are and to understand how to solve them. But when they're being called out because they're white, and when even the word white supremacy is being used at a training, something has gone completely wrong. This is not what anti-bias training is.
And you represent all three women,
I
right?
do.
And do you have any photos that you're able to share of them?
I think there were photos in the paper yesterday.
Right.
I don't have anything right now.
I didn't know if you had any official photos that they're happy to share.
Can I get back to you on that? Yeah. I
So
don't have the answer.
they're not in the classroom, correct?
No, they're in the central office.
So they're saying other administrators can't relate to them because they're white? Is that what the
Well, I mean,
suggestion is?
yesterday, he was talking about the individuals who brought these claims. He's talked about his cabinet, which is not in the classroom, and he's referencing the New York City student population, the 70 to 80% of black and brown students that will see people that they resemble. But he's made changes outside of his cabinet. He created this whole level of executive superintendent, and there's not a Caucasian on that level. There just isn't. That's a brand new position that he brought in.
Executive superintendent.
Executive
How does
superintendent.
that relate to the regular superintendent?
Well, that's where he's made all of these very confusing and unclear changes. Yesterday I think he used the word layering, but it's not layering. It's disrupting and dismantling Caucasian females.
So what is your response to his statement he made in the New York Post saying that he wants the most qualified, most passionate, most focused on student educators?
Then those are my clients. If he wants them, he already had them, and he's removed them. So the only reason, what I say to that, is that his definition of qualification is rooted in race and gender.
And his response, or the statement also saying that he wants children to see top administrators that look exactly like him?
Well, that's a problem. That's where he's distorting the human rights law, because he's making decisions based on the color of people's skin and their gender, and that's illegal.
Sorry, quick question.
Yeah.
Would that disqualify then minority administrators from holding jobs in majority white schools based upon that logic and reasoning?
The New York City human rights law gives everybody a chance, gives everyone an opportunity to prove themselves based on their competency, based on their experience, based on their qualifications. Once race or gender comes into it, we're getting into really dangerous territory. We're implicating the human rights law. And so it shouldn't be about the color of anyone's skin or their gender. It should only be about whether or not they can do the job. And these people, they didn't just appear yesterday. They've been at the DOE for decades. Some of them have been there for decades. And they've proven themselves over years. They've been promoted. They've been successful. They've created programs or policies that are now being claimed by other people. It's when race or gender comes into it, we're getting into trouble, and that's what's happening here.
Do you think the mayor's on board with this?
Well, the mayor put him in his role. The mayor put Carranza in his role.
But do you think that there was discussion about moving ahead with this particular position, this agenda?
I have my own beliefs. I don't know that I want to share that right now, but he put him in his role.
So, are they in a union?
No.
Is there seniority?
They're not in a union.
So there's really nothing that they could.
They can't-
Nobody could represent them.
Correct. A
So
lawyer can represent them,
that's why
which
they're-
is happening now. They tried to get help from EEO, the DOE's EEO. There's been no answer there. They've complained. There's been no answer there. But no, yeah, they can't make a grievance to their union because they're not in a union.
And what is their tenure? How long have they been working for the DOE?
Lois Herrera has been working for the DOE since 1986. Laura Faju has been with the DOE since 1989, and Jay Murray has been with the DOE since 2006. Long time, 30 years for Ms.
So
Herrera.
all three of them at the same time were affected by this?
Boom, boom, boom.
Was
Yes.
it within a month, within several months, within a year?
Ms. Herrera, it was in August of last year. Ms. Murray, I think September, soon after. I know we have the dates in the complaint about Ms. Faju. I don't have that right.
What were they told when they were reassigned? What was their
That there
main-
needs to be a change. But it came within all of this other messaging about toxic whiteness, about white supremacy.
This is what they were told?
Yeah, this is what the message that's being sent at these meetings that they're going to. It looks like Ms. Faju was in June of last year. So June, August, September,
September after the school year started, too.
Yeah, Ms. Murray, it was in the August-September time period.
Are they feeling like any hostilities? They're still obviously in their jobs. Are they feeling, what's it like for them to be in these jobs now? They're suing, but the fact that they got demoted and they're sort of being cast aside, what's it been like for them?
Terrible. It's humiliating. It's humiliating to be there every day, to see their work being claimed by other people, to see programs that they implemented that were important and successful being dismantled or changed, and they can't do anything to address that. It's humiliating on a daily basis, waking up every day and feeling horrible about going into work.
So they're feeling marginalized. What is it like that they don't get it? Is that sort of what the message is to them? They don't get it?
Well,
So
they're
gonna be
at
put out to pasture?
at this point, they're invisible, so they don't need to be reminded that they don't fit in to Chancellor Carranza's agenda. It's been made painfully clear.
Has there been any other precedent for this, for civil servants being withheld from jobs because of race or gender in the last 10 years? Not how long time ago.
Are you